One Piece Manga Chapter 1137 titled, Shamrock Takes the Stage. In this chapter, Luffy, Nami, and Zoro reach Ouest Castle and find the guards that Junko took down. We also learn more about King Harold, the relationship between Loki and Hajrudin, and finally see the full reveal of Shanks' twin and his position in the Gods' Knights. So sit back, relax, and watch right till the end of the video. You won't want to miss a single second of this peak chapter. The cover page of the chapter is the 23rd volume of the limited cover story, Oni Child Yamato and the Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage. In the previous volume of the limited cover story, Yamato, Speed, Otama, and Komichio arrived at a mysterious hidden base in Udon. Hold'em was tied up, and Yamato made sure he couldn't escape or cause trouble again. This volume continues with Yamato and the others entering the secret base. Yamato and Otama quietly sneak up and peek through an open window. They can't believe their eyes. They spot some of Who's Who's underlings walking around inside. The two quietly gasped, trying not to make a sound. With all the kidnappings happening, do you think Who's Who's subordinates could be the ones responsible for that? The chapter begins where we left off in chapter 1136. Finally, Luffy and the gang arrive at the entrance of Ouest Castle. Road talks as everyone walks into the giant gate. He mentions it's been 14 years since King Harold's death, and since then, no one's dared to approach the castle. But what's currently happening is weird. Road darts of sweat as he glances around. The giant gate has been forced open, and there are no guards in sight. Nami stays on the ground as she asks Road if something is wrong. Zoro stays calm, pointing out that the gate looks like it was broken from the inside. If there are invaders, why would they break in like that? He's not buying it. Little do they know, the Gods' Knights who teleported into the castle have already left. They're now deep in the realm of the dead, trying to convince Loki to join them. Luffy's flushed with excitement. His voice raises in pitch, barely able to hold back his eagerness. The only way for them to know what's going on is to enter the castle and find the key. Road hesitates at the entrance, sweat running down his face. Just peering into the castle's dark, crumbling halls sends shivers down his spine. While Nami and Zoro cautiously wander around, Luffy throws his arms up. Everything is so gigantic! The walls are cracked, enormous tree roots crawl across the floor and ceilings, and the space feels endless. To Nami and Zoro, the ceiling looks impossibly high, and even walking feels overwhelming in such a massive place. Luffy spins around with his usual grin as he asks Road about the key. Road picks up Nami and Zoro, telling Luffy he doesn't know either. He's just an ordinary man, and entering the castle wasn't a privilege he had. Nami proceeds to sweet-talk Road. She's glad he's here, so he really should start and get moving. As Luffy bursts towards the inner area, Road walks slowly. His feelings are mixed as he steps inside the castle. Since it's his first time, Road is both terrified and thrilled. But seeing the castle in ruins, Zoro wonders if it's the doing of the invaders too. He's really not buying that intruder stuff. However, it's not the case. Road reveals that the destruction has been here since Loki killed King Harold. Zoro couldn't help but be impressed. Road further adds that if Loki is a monster, King Harold was actually known as Elbaf's great warrior. This degree of destruction couldn't be avoided. Out of nowhere, Luffy's voice rings out. He spotted something ahead, and Nami's face twists in fear. As they enter a large room, everyone sees the horrifying scene before them. A pile of giant skeletons sprawls across the floor, with broken swords still stuck in some of the skulls. The frightening sight is impossible to ignore. Road explains that they were once the castle's guards. During the battle between Loki and King Harold, nearly 100 of them lost their lives at Loki's hands. Out of all of them, only Jarul and Loki survived. Since that tragic day, the castle has been sealed off, and no one has been allowed to enter. If we look back at chapter 1135, we saw that Jarul had a sword stuck in his head. He thinks his helmet saved him from it, but even after all these years, the sword is still there. Fast forward to chapter 1136, and Hajrudin reveals that Loki was the one who drove that sword into Jarul's head. Road looks around nervously. This place has seen some terrible things, and he's convinced it's crawling with vengeful spirits. But Luffy doesn't care one bit. Instead, he's climbing on top of a giant skull, shouting for everyone to check it out. Luffy can't help himself. He hugs one of the skull's massive horns, wondering out loud if this giant knew oars back when it was alive. Road steps in to explain. These horns belong to someone with pure ancient giant warrior blood. That bloodline is long gone, but some giants in Elbaf still carry traces of it. Road goes on to say that King Harold, who was even bigger and stronger than most giants, was one of them. Road suddenly spots something above. Up there lies a portrait of King Harold. It's old and cracked after all these years, but the image of Harold's face is still clear. This same portrait appeared in the last chapter when Jarul and the giants were telling the Straw Hats about Loki and King Harold. Back then, Harold's face was covered in shadow. But now, we finally get a full look at him. Road is talking animatedly as he speaks of King Harold. As the camera zooms in, we see a closer glimpse of King Harold's portrait. Harold has a fierce look, with a thick mustache and a black beard. His head is marked with scars from when he tore off his own horns. King Harold believed that the ancient giants were a relic of a war-filled past. As a king who tried to create peace with the outside world, breaking off his own horns was a way of showing his beliefs. Hearing this, Nami is left speechless. Luffy, though, just blurts out how cool it is that Harold had horns. Zoro, as always, looks impressed. Hey Nakama, would you like early access to the latest video chapter of One Piece every week? Or perhaps you would like to watch the video chapter in full color. If you would like those, please consider joining my YouTube channel membership for as low as $2 a month. If you want to watch the video chapter in full color, choose the First Mate membership. Your support would greatly help me to continue making these videos for you. Thank you, Nakama. Road keeps walking and reveals more. After King Harold passed away, the entire country fell into despair. The one who came to hate Loki the most is King Harold's other son, Hajrudin. Luffy freezes in his tracks, eyes wide in shock.
Nani?
Even Nami finds it hard to believe that Hajrudin is Loki's brother. Road explains that Hajrudin and Loki have different mothers. Before King Harold married the queen, Hajrudin was born to another woman, but Elbaf never recognized Hajrudin's mother as their queen. Nami listens carefully, wondering why. Even Zoro looks confused. Just because Hajrudin's mom came from another country doesn't mean she couldn't be queen. They were both giants after all. Road thinks it's not that simple. While it's true that Hajrudin's mother is a giant, giants are also fighting over land like humans. Her blood wasn't considered pure Elbaf blood, and was believed to taint the pure Elbaf blood. Nami frowns, clearly upset by this discrimination. Road brushes it off. He tries to sweet-talk her, but Nami is unimpressed. Zoro raises a question. If Hajrudin has tainted blood, then why would Road join his crew? Road pauses, and memories from his childhood flash through his mind. When he was young, Road was bullied by other kids. They called him names like creepy nerd, and made fun of his love for drawing maps. One day, Hajrudin saw one of Road's maps and was blown away by how good it was. Hajrudin asked Road to teach him how to draw and even invited him to be friends. Young Road was over the moon. As Road recalls the past, he tells more about Hajrudin. Road likes how earnest and straightforward Hajrudin is. Even though he's the king's son, he never really lived in the castle growing up. His mother was mistreated, but he never gave up. Hajrudin still dreams of uniting every giant tribe in the world. Nami leans in, clearly inspired by Hajrudin's story. The scene shifts to the western village. The giants raise their mugs as they continue the feast. Stanson, Goldberg, and Gerd stand by Hajrudin as he boldly declares his dream. Hajrudin claims that he will become the king of the giants. The scene shifts back to the Ouest Castle. Road's cheeks turn pink as he tells Nami and Zoro that he wants to help Hajrudin achieve his dream. But Luffy's voice suddenly cuts through. He tells the three to come over, saying he saw some giants passed out on the ground. The scene shifts to the realm of the dead. Even from a distance, Loki's groan echoes. He coughs, his face battered and bruised as he yells at the god's knights. Loki insists that his injuries are only because he can't move from where he's chained. But the god knight, the one who resembles Shanks, doesn't think so. He confidently states that even if Loki could move, the results would still be the same. Junko, standing nearby, glares down at Loki. Her devil fruit powers reveal yet another trick. She draws her arrows and uses it to enlarge her boots. Bandages wrap tightly around her right foot as she focuses her next attack on Loki. Junko's patience is running thin. To her, the chance to ascend to a world noble is the greatest opportunity. Most people offer their lives trying to reach this unattainable dream. Even then, they have only the slimmest chance of success. Yet Loki still refuses to accept it. As Junko slams her foot down, a dark arrow shoots up from the ground beneath her. The arrow turns gray and homes in on Loki, who is still chained to the treasure tree atom. As the arrow inches closer to his face, Loki finally realizes what's coming. He shouts at Junko, fed up with what's happening. For Loki, this happened so many times now. Loki senses the surroundings. The arrow turns right, but a second arrow appears, moving upward. Loki quickly pieces it together. He predicts a full-speed kick coming toward the right side of his face. Junko listens as he prepares the bandages in her hand. A wicked smile spreads on Loki's face as he sarcastically thanks Junko for the warning. But he knows what's next. The moment he turns his face after receiving the kick, she'll strike with an uppercut. Junko stares at Loki as she reveals the nature of her ability. Junko reveals that her arrows show the trajectory of the future. Once her attack is set in motion, it's unstoppable. Only she can decide when to stop it. She gives Loki one last chance to save himself. All he needs is to say yes and join the God's Knights. But Loki responds with silence. Junko doesn't wait any longer. She steps onto a floating arrow that's aimed straight at Loki. He yells at her, calling her a fool and loudly rejecting her offer. But it's too late. Junko's figure has already disappeared. In the next moment, Junko lands a devastating kick square to Loki's face. Loki cannot dodge it. Junko spins around as she moves for the next attack. Following the trajectory of the arrow, Junko uppercuts Loki, a critical hit to his chin. Loki doesn't even have time to cry out. For a moment, he stays frozen, enduring the pain, before glancing downward. But he stays silent, refusing to make a sound. Around him, the beasts of the realm of the dead are watching. A giant bear growls in anger, its body covered in wounds. It struggles to rise, but collapses under its injuries. The other beasts are lying nearby, all battered, pierced by Junko's arrows, and barely clinging to life. If we go back to the previous chapter, a giant wolf tried to defeat Junko. Unfortunately, Junko was stronger, and the arrows tightened around the wolf's neck. Loki could only watch helplessly back then. Now, with all his friends lying on the ground, barely clinging to life, it's clear they tried to save Loki but were defeated as well. Loki gasps for air, coughing as his injuries weigh him down. He curses at Junko, warning her that she'll pay for what she did to them. But Junko is not finished yet. She controls the arrows and sends them all towards Loki's way. The arrows multiply in number, but before Junko attacks, Loki shouts desperately. Junko stopped her attack for a moment. She then asks Loki if he'll finally be going to become a god's knight and join them. Loki's expression grew twisted and menacing. His desperation completely vanishes as he flashes a wicked smile at Junko. But before Loki could finish his sentence, a loud yell echoes in the realm of the dead. It was Loki's yell, and it took him some time to finish. Off the screen, Junko's attacks are knocking him down. Not long after, the scream turned into silence. Loki is still groaning in pain, but it's so weak and soft. The one who looks like Shanks tells Junko that it's fine now. He removes his hood and black cloak, revealing his face to the world. In an epic double spread, the unnamed invader's name and appearance are finally revealed. His name is Shamrock Garland, son of the Elder Garland Garling and captain of the God's Knights. Shamrock's resemblance to Shanks is unreal, though there are key differences. He has long wavy hair, some of it braided, and no scars on his face. A sword hangs at his side, and a long cape wraps over his shoulders. Junko's devil fruit powers are also revealed at last. She possesses the arrow fruit. Shamrock decides to change their strategy. He immediately orders Junko to contact Mary Joaz. Junko pays close attention and lets Shamrock continue. Shamrock points out how useless the beasts in the realm of the dead are. He wanted to handle this mission more shrewdly, but they were not even valuable as a leverage for Loki. Junko agrees. Even if it means death, they still refuse to give up, like they have a strong faith in something. As the camera pans out, Shamrock's voice echoes. He talks about the savage warriors of Elbaf, revealing that they once dominated the New World. Shamrock's gaze narrows as he looks at Loki, now completely motionless. Even his groans earlier have completely disappeared. Determination is burning in Shamrock's eyes. Veins pop on his forehead as he declares his goal. Without failure, he and the world government will definitely conquer Elbaf no matter what. What a chapter! Is this also why Big Mom wanted Lola to become an Elbaf princess? If we look back at chapter 858, Chiffon tells Nami and Carrot about Lola's failed marriage with Loki. Loki fell in love with Lola at first sight, and when Big Mom found out, she was overjoyed. If Lola had become the princess of Elbaf, it could have ended Big Mom's long-lasting conflict with them after she killed Elder Jarul. It would have also given her control over the Elbaf warriors, which she might have used for her own benefit. Unfortunately for her, the marriage fell apart when Lola ran away. Big Mom then tried to marry Chiffon off instead, but her plan was exposed, making her relationship with Elbaf even worse. This raises an interesting question. Could there be a deeper reason why both Big Mom and the world government are so determined to use Loki, the son of King Harold and a royal with pure Elbaf blood? We've also seen Shamrock appear so many times throughout the series, and now we finally get to learn who he really is. If we go back to chapter 1121 of the manga, we see a mysterious silhouette. Fans started theorizing that this person might be Shanks' brother, and part of the Garland family. All we knew at the time was that the silhouette had a sword and seemed to be someone who could play a big role in the hunt for the One Piece. In chapter 907, Shamrock showed up again. He was seen talking with the Gorosei about a certain pirate. The Gorosei treated him with special care, even setting up a meeting at his request. That Shanks was also speaking formally with the Gorosei, which we know is something the real Shanks would never do. Now, Shamrock's full appearance really helps connect the dots on all of those Shanks theories. Shanks D. Snitch was never a thing, and the captain of the God's Knights is definitely not him. With all this, it's also pretty much confirmed that the person speaking to the Gorosei wasn't Shanks, but Shamrock instead. Then, in chapter 1134, Shamrock reappeared, this time alongside Junko, as they invaded Elbaf. Now with the world government mobilizing the God's Knights and even trying to recruit Loki, it feels like what Dragon said in chapter 1083 could be coming true. Is this the start of the final war, or has it already begun? And what could all of this mean for the Straw Hats and Elbaf? There's so much to talk about and discuss, so let's continue this in the comment section down below. As always, press like if you enjoyed the video, and if you don't want to miss out on future One Piece chapters like this one, definitely subscribe and hit that bell icon. If you missed any old chapters, just click the videos on the screen to catch up. There won't be a break next week, so I'll see you in the next video. Till then, thank you for watching, and have a great day, Nakama.